We move through problems the same way we move through the world. Quickly, instinctively, grasping the first thing that makes sense. A word, a pattern, and we begin. But what if the first thing we notice was never the real problem? Because more often than we realize, we misunderstand what we are solving for. We hear what is said, but we don't always listen to what is meant. And in that gap, we move too quickly instead of seeing clearly. Because clarity doesn't come from reacting, it comes from understanding. And when that understanding shifts, everything else follows. So the question is, are you solving what you see or understanding what truly needs to be solved? In the last episode, we saw our designers running through the gauntlet of presentations and receiving feedback. Today, we start the proceedings with a case study being conducted by Satyam, a world-renowned design luminary. Let's hear his story from Prasad.
He's an interaction designer to start off with, but he has evolved into a business leader who uses design to solve problems. He started within the consulting space, then he moved into the financial space with the credit cards, and then he moved into PayPal, which was again into payments and finance. He then went on to become the managing director for design at Citrix. He's also an Harvard alumni, and he spent a lot of time evangelizing design within the leadership of organizations. And finally, he went on to found UX Reactor, which recently got acquired by this multi-billion-dollar company. His lessons are very important for all the designers who are going into the senior roles, is to understand that design is never a straight line. Design is not a race, it's a dance. That means things happen, you change your strategy. Something else happens, you change your strategy. So you need to learn to dance with the organization to make things happen, as opposed to bulldoze through something or run through something. It doesn't work that way.
But as the discussion on case study unfolds, our designers seem a bit apprehensive to take part. What could be the reason for this?
We are coming in front of an industry leader who has done a lot of work. We might make silly mistakes, or we might ask a very stupid question. That is why a lot of people were not raising their hands, because I think the case study was fairly very simple to understand. The philosophy that we try to drive here is that you can make mistakes so that you can succeed at your workplace, you can grow in your career faster.
I still see this today, that people are like, why do I need design? Why do I need you? There's a constant element of trying to prove that you belong, right? And that's a challenge, because the engineer is like, I can do what you're doing. I can also sit there, a PM can say that, I can also draw out what it is. So be aware of that. That's another thing, that this profession is misunderstood. It's a profession in adolescence. It was 23 years back, it still is, right? And the power of AI, it is even more.
But Satyam charms his way through to the participants and soon gets everyone interested and involved in the discussions.
He came up with this case study from a very, personal touch perspective. Like, in initial days when he was 23 or 24 years old, how did he start as a design leader when there was no AI, there was no that much of an awareness about UX designers? So he brought all those insights. He didn't miss any single group, and he had a way to engage with them and make them comfortable. So that was really great, and people are taking away, I think, a lot of insights from his business case study.
As soon as the case study gets over, it's time for our designers to get into another call with GIS aid, this time with a person representing their engineering team. But why is this required?
Every designer is working in the context of a product development environment. They have to understand the engineering processes, they have to understand the product management process so they can align with it. Now the challenge comes is when the designer is not aligned, that's when the complaints start happening and projects don't deliver.
So who are we interacting with during this call? As Prasad clarifies, GIS aid had a principal research officer from A-Star Bioinformatics Institute, an engineer who was building out the tools.
Now they wanted to create the next generation of that tool to make it a lot simpler.
You were mentioning that during COVID times where there were a lot more submissions, how do we handle that, and would that large increase in sequence submission affect our current front end? So indeed, during the high COVID days, we receive up to maybe 200,000 sequences in a given week. So that load is that will translate to about having to annotate about 20,000 sequences in a day.
Design always crashes when engineers say it is not possible. Rafael was the person who came on the call to make sure that whatever we were suggesting would be feasible. And so all the participants get an opportunity to talk to Rafael and understand what the boundaries of possibility and impossibility are.
The interaction begins and the participants start clearing out their doubts with the engineer, Mr. Raphael Lee. But the only concern is, are their questions good enough?
A lot of their questions reflected the fact that they didn't hear. They probably heard, but they weren't listening to what their client was saying. In the first call, the client had said upfront, I don't want AI, I don't trust AI. Even then, we had multiple people asking questions about AI. Until it got to the point where the client said, wait, let me actually draw out, because she realized that you were not understanding what the problem was, whether the questions were correct or not. I'm not arguing that. What I'm arguing is, we need to take the effort to tell the client, it's a style of communication. We need to take the effort to tell the client, listen, I heard you, okay? But this is my intention, so do you think we can do that? We understand that you don't want to implement AI and there's lots of sensitivities. However, in this specific use case where we are doing X, Y, and Z, do you think AI might be a good match? So when you ask that, you're clearly communicating to the client, I heard you, I understand what you're saying, but is there a possibility? And the client is happy, right? And so that is something that is really important. As we learn to talk to our peers and our clients in different teams, we want to make sure that they don't think that you're asking the same question again and again because you have not understood the problem. We want them to get to the point that, yeah, you understood the problem, but there are certain use cases where it might be useful and then they might appreciate it.
With the call over, our mentors realize that the participants have had a really intense couple of sessions. But they are still not close to finding a solution.
We have a problem.
What problem?
Right. The problem is, I think they're not able to solve the work as a team.
Right.
They're taking way too much time.
Right.
At this speed, they'll not get done.
Right. It was supposed to get done yesterday. They're still stuck with scenarios.
Right.
Workflow is not.
Still ideating on the experience, which experience we prioritize.
Correct. So what I'm proposing is, we take a process break. Everybody gets here and we learn to work as a team under time pressure.
Right.
So I'd like to do like a 30-45 minute session on how to work together quickly and cleanly.
Right.
So this impromptu activity should help people take decisions faster, something that is critical as the clock keeps ticking away and we are fast approaching the end of day 4 of this impossible design challenge. The activity starts with detailed instructions to teams and their respective facilitators.
I'll tell you what a facilitator does. Each one of you are going to have a timer When you say pen up, everybody has to keep their pen or pencil up. They're not touching the page again. If your team members are not listening to you, it means they do not respect you. This is what will happen in a professional setting, at which point you have the option to resign as a facilitator, and somebody else will have to take on that role as a facilitator. If you're not able to do that, then the whole team is disqualified. You get to sit on the side and watch everybody else learn how to. Now, let us say that you're doing it and your team says 1 minute, 1 minute. What do? Stop. That's it. You're the boss. You're managing the process. You do not let anybody walk over you. For the rest of the 4 people in the team, or the rest of the team, in your case, just the 2 of you, right? What you're going to do is you're going to choose one experience, one user. Okay, each one of you. Make it unique. Don't overlap amongst each other. Okay? You are focused on that one user, one experience. You'll give 5 minutes for the first time. Okay? In those 5 minutes, each one of your team members is reorienting themselves on that experience. They are understanding what the scenarios are for that experience, and they are settling down. After that 5 minutes, you'll do a 10-minute timer. Okay, everybody pen up. Take 30 seconds break. Okay? Then you say, going to put the pen down again. 10 minutes. First workflow. You're going to do whatever comes to your mind. Do your first workflow. Okay? Then pen up again. 30-second break. Okay? Then you do another 10-minute timer. You're going to do the second workflow. 30-second break. When you're taking a break, the pen is gone, the paper is gone. You're thinking about the next problem. Don't think about what you did before. Then again, pen down. Third workflow. What are these 3 workflows? They're variations of the same first one. If the user's technically savvy, this is the workflow that will. Let's say they were not technically savvy, then how would they do it? So you're looking at the assumptions and trying to solve the same problem, same workflow. Okay? You do 3 of those. Come back in. Okay? Now every individual will take 5 minutes to present it to other individuals. I'll tell you exactly how much time you're going to have. Okay? You will present it to everyone, and then what we will do is we will say, what if? Okay? So I like this idea, but what if? And then we'll build on the ideas that you guys have thought about. Cool? And so the idea is, if we were to do this, you should be able to complete all your workflows, assuming your experience and everything are correct. You should be able to do all your workflows within a limited period of time, right? Keep in mind, one of the other reasons why you're struggling with workflows is you're taking it too seriously. You're worried about what you're not seeing. Okay? Sometimes you need to solve for what you see first and then think about what you're not seeing. Everybody comfortable? Ready to go?
And then a flurry of activity among all the participants begins. The newly assigned facilitators make sure that ideations are quick and free-flowing, with no time allowed for overthinking. The idea is to get going with velocity, a theme established on day 1 of the challenge itself. But a key agenda of this program is to build leadership skills through effective facilitation, and Prasad soon drills this down.
So what's the problem now? You're just sitting there being a police guy. Do you think you're enjoying it? No. So what do you do now? So think about the marshmallow challenge. Okay. What does the executive assistant do that makes the CEO better? It keeps them focused. That's what you're doing. What else do they do?
Remind them of the outcomes.
They keep reminding them of the outcomes, so make sure you're hitting the outcomes. So you need to know what the experiences and scenarios are for everyone. So say, make sure this outcome is being met. They can give ideas, right? See, the best work happens when you have a buddy behind you, right? You are that buddy who's not accountable for the output, but you can help them improve quality, right? So just walk behind people and see if somebody has got an idea that you're excited about. Hey, what if you did something like this? What if you did something like this? Add that little spice. Get their ideas better. Okay?
With that mandate of adding spice and nudging their teammates towards better ideation, the facilitators march on with their roles. Ideas slowly start getting better. more consolidated, refined. But there is another problem on the horizon which a leader needs to think about.
All the facilitators come back here. Now, what I'm saying is the role changes now slightly. Because what happens is for the same thing you have to do variation, people will start struggling. Second variation, they'll be struggling. Third variation, I can't think of anything, right? This is where you now become a coach. Okay, you're saying you can do it. Have you thought about maybe we can do things in fewer screens, right? Maybe if you said 5 screens, can you do it in 2 screens, right? Or can you do something faster, right? What if it was a mobile device? How might it look like, right? So give them some interesting challenge and say, now how would your workflow change? So you're giving them inputs or ideas of how to do another variation. Okay? You're in the coaching mode now. Okay? Cool.
Keeping teammates constantly motivated so that the initial enthusiasm does not fizzle out with fatigue is what these facilitators need to ensure. Everyone has worked hard enough till this point. They need to know that they can finish strong. And sure enough, initial apprehensions give way to confident smiles, almost as if everyone can see the light at the end of the tunnel. But as usual, there is a twist to the proceedings, which the participants are definitely not expecting.
You have 10 minutes. Go take a picture that you think is fascinating or interesting for you. Okay? And share it in the Telegram group.
There is a hidden reason behind this seemingly random activity.
As humans, we are psychologically primed to complete something and then walk away from it. I did not want to give them the sense of completion. I wanted them to shift their focus on doing something else. So I said, go out, take a picture. And so their mind is focused on what picture am I going to take, how am I going to take it. And at the subconscious level, they still don't have completion. So they're thinking about what they've done. And so by the time they come back, they're refreshed. Distract them, give them some breathing space, and then they come back, they're fresh, they're able to solve it. It's all about spending short bursts of time to solve a problem and then focusing on something else and then coming back to it. And that actually helps you increase the quality of your work as opposed to just staring at that screen for a whole night. It's not going to improve anything anyways.
And this happy distraction ends up producing some very interesting results. And with that, Prasad gets everyone primed for the next session, learning how to listen better when interacting with the client.
Dr. Mack said, I want a dashboard. Well, why do you want a dashboard? Well, I want a dashboard so I can make decisions faster. I can identify things faster. Everybody heard the word dashboard, but at the same time, she also said, I know that people are not spending a lot of time on my tool. She also said that she needed to, individual scientists wanted to be credited for their work. There was also something where, she was mentioning about in terms of the complexity of the information when different users look at it. So scientists might look at some data and say this is perfectly reasonable, but a policymaker might look at it and may not be even able to understand what is presented to them. So there were so many other constraints that were around that. When people start designing, they took the one word that they understood, which was dashboards, right? And they all ran towards dashboards, and they were kind of not able to understand how all these other pieces of feedback fed into the work that they were doing. We have to habituate our mind to constantly ask that question is what were the other problems and how am I making sure I'm solving all of those problems with respect to what Dr. Mack said.
Simran starts off by asking the participants to watch the video recording of the call with GIS aid again. He wants them to listen carefully and read between the lines. He wants them to identify everything that the client said she wanted.
Okay, so she's saying we're also able to filter by country, which shows that data is inputted and gathered in a way that there is some structure. So we don't have to think about how the data is gathered. Data is already gathered and it's organized this way. So that's another design opportunity that we have. Okay, she also said that everyone's worried about H5, another data point for us. So this can help you with prioritization as well, right?
And then Saurabh gets into the action. He demonstrates how to get their designs aligned with what the client actually needed.
So what I'm doing is I'm saying that let us call this documentation base. Why I'm saying that? Because we are using that and we will be updating that again and again and again. The problem is AI is only doing what we are telling it to do, and it has the data that we have given it. But we as designers know that it might miss out on some things, because the client might also miss out on some things, because client is scientist. They are not UX researcher, they are not UX designers. So that is what I'm asking. I'm challenging the AI now.
Prasad shares his thoughts on this.
What Saurabh did was he said, let's look at the problem, let's break it down. And it's all about being calm, breaking down the problem, and he broke down the problem, used ChatGPT to work its way back, create a whole requirements document based on that. All you need to do is stop and think. It's about smart work, not about hard work. And that's what Saurabh demonstrated after that. He demonstrated all the work that they'd done till that point. He demonstrated that he could have done it in 2 hours. So 4 days of work, he demonstrated it could be done. What did Saurabh bring to the table that was unique, that the AI didn't know? Because everybody else was using AI. How is it that they were not able to do it and Saurabh was able to do it? It's that mindset difference that makes that difference.
This day has been quite a revelation for everyone. One can only hope that everyone is able to course correct fast, because the deadline for the final presentation is slowly creeping up on them. Stay tuned for the next episode of the Impossible Design Challenge.